A rematch from just 11 days ago up at TD Place, but this time we'll head to Fenton, Missouri here at the Worldwide Technology Soccer Park as Anthony Pulis' St. Louis FC looking to exact revenge against an Ottawa Fury FC side that is currently sitting inside the playoff cutoff line. Tyler Terrence along with the ex-German pro Devin Kerr. Tonight's broadcast is presented by the Cheshire Inn. And we'll take a look at the Eastern Conference table at the moment. St. Louis FC on the outside looking in 11th place. Meanwhile, for Ottawa Fury, they're trying to avoid that first-in play-in scenario in the USL Championship playoffs as they have games in hand on Louisville, North Carolina, and the like, but they have a lot of work to do. And Devin will key in on St. Louis FC because tactically, they're doing something very different from the rest of the league, who also plays in a 4-4-2.
Definitely not a traditional one in whatsoever. And let's take a look at how Anthony Pulis deploys his boys going forward. Likes to get his outside mids involved and then push the outside backs, but it's always balanced. Turns it into a 2-4-4. How are they able to do it? You have to start from the back going forward with guys that are really good playing out of the center of defense. You have that in Sam Fink and Fanuel Convita. And what they do is they overload the middle and overload the front line. And if that first initial push doesn't happen, they still have numbers up top that enable you to put enough pressure and go after a bit of a press. Sometimes it's lucky, sometimes it's just the fact that the ball bounces the right way. It's kind of what you get here. Kadeem Dager's trying to knock one in. Second ball comes back around, but notice, there's no panic from St. Louis whatsoever. Everybody knows where their responsibility lies. Beautiful little touch by Reynolds, an explosion down into the corner. Where's the trailing run going to come from? You get Kyle Gregg on the near post, you get a quick little dash to the top of the six, but most importantly, you have the trailing run coming from your outside back in Matt Boehner. Remember, that started with Sean Reynolds on the right. Now let's show you where they can get themselves into trouble. It's overexposure and their inability to get back in transition. This starts with a dive in by Cicerone on the left, and then following suit in the same fashion, Matt Boehner. You have to stand your ground here. One-on-one situation, no reason to leave your feet. It's a turnover, you start going the other direction, and then what happens? As space opens up, you turn this into a 5v4. Look at Hartford Athletic. Plenty of numbers at the top of the box. Everybody tracking back for St. Louis FC. You have a multitude of ways that you can go after the back line right now. They elect the long read to the back post. Sebastian Dalgard makes them pay. They were able to win this game, but you have to realize that the second goal given up against Ottawa was done in the exact same fashion. Read the tape, get back to basics, get 3 points.
St. Louis, a team desperate for 3 points. Ottawa Fury looking to be a bit more consistent on the road. It's all coming your way next.
This year we've developed Ale d'Or, which is a beer brewed exclusively for the St. Louis Football Club. We've been partners with STLC for coming up on 3 years now. St. Louis Football Club got some Schlafly, call out our Luligan friends on the side. You'll be able to find Ale d'Or obviously out at Soccer Park and then at your local grocery in and around St. Louis, so we're really excited to get it out there in the market. We're excited to debut it in 16-ounce cans for the upcoming season.
When you need quality electrical work for your home or business, look to theelectricalconnection.org. Created as a partnership between IBEW Local 1 electricians and the St. Louis chapter of the National Electrical Contractors Association, the Electrical Connection has been setting the standard for electrical excellence in St. Louis for over 100 years. You can depend on our highly skilled and trained workforce, your #1 source for quality electrical and communication contractors, electricalconnection.org. When you need quality electrical work for your home or business, look to theelectricalconnection.org. Created as a partnership between IBEW Local 1 electricians and the St. Louis chapter of the National Electrical Contractors Association, the Electrical Connection has been setting the standard for electrical excellence in St. Louis for over 100 years. You can depend on our highly skilled and trained workforce, your #1 source for quality electrical and communication contractors, electricalconnection.org.
Tonight's broadcast presented by the Cheshire Inn, St. Louis FC and Ottawa Fury Football Club to do battle here for 90 minutes in Fenton, Missouri. Tyler Terrence along with the ex-German pro Devin Kerr. So glad to have you with us for a little bit of midweek madness in the Eastern Conference of the USL Championship. And we'll take a look at the starting lineups, which are brought to you by Schlafly for St. Louis FC. A bit of rotation, especially considering all of the injuries and everything that they've had this season. Caleb Calvert and Kyle Gregg will get the start up top. Master Kasher, recently acquired by Anthony Pulis, is going to start outside. Kadeem Dakers on the opposite side. It'll be Fanuel Kavita and Sam Fink holding it along the back line with Tomas Gomez in between the sticks. How about the visitors in Ottawa Fury FC? A sign that has impressed a lot of people this season, but they're looking to make their first ever playoff appearance in the USL Championship. Kevin Oliveira will be running the show up top with the likes of newly acquired Haji Berry, Chris Manella, Charlie Ward, and Wall Fall in the middle of the field. Wall Fall, all too familiar with St. Louis FC. And we are extremely excited about the 90 minutes that we have here ahead of us in Fenton, Missouri, as we are almost ready for kickoff on Star Wars night in Fenton. Ottawa Fury looking to fulfill their playoff destiny for the first time in the USL Championship, and the acquisition of bounty hunter Haji Berry should certainly help in that quest. Meanwhile, St. Louis FC are trying to awaken the force of the early season form as they have started to slip towards the dark side of the postseason hunt. 90 minutes here at the West Community Death Star, where only one Rebel force has prevailed all season. May the 3 points be with you all. And away we go from West Community. St. Louis FC in their green and blue, Ottawa Fury in their all whites. A rematch from just 11 days ago where Ottawa Fury prevailed by a score of 2-1. It was Hilton getting a touch to it. Slipped through, but actually poked away by the Ottawa Fury back line. Manella trying to play out of pressure, and the foul is called. And our head referee for tonight, Victor Rivas. We'll take a look at our defensive keys to the match, which are provided by Fortinet. Devin, what are we looking at?
We alluded to it a bit early on. If you're just joining us, it has to be proper discipline by St. Louis FC. Their ability to get numbers forward and find goals, I'm all for, but make sure you're tracking back as well. And Ottawa Fury, Popovich has really brought his style in over the past 18 months. Couldn't necessarily implement it in 2018. Went out and got some pieces that fit a bit better. Now in 2019, they have to defend from the front, tracking back. They as well like to throw numbers forward, especially when they turn this into a front three and it goes to 5 or 6. But they have to make sure that when they turn it over, they continue that high pressure and start defending from the front three back.
Gaia Ben cleaning things up. Kadeem Dakers took a deflection. Now here's Lewis Hilton. He is the man in the middle for Anthony Pulis. There's so many good things for them, including finding the likes of Matt Boehner. He touches it along for Master Kasher, trying to get on the better side of Charlie Ward, who made a solid defensive play in Ottawa's defensive third. Good challenge from Sam Fink. It's an Ottawa team coming off of a really disappointing loss against Bob Lilly and the Pittsburgh Riverhounds, who after getting drilled by North Carolina FC have responded with 2 wins in a row. And Nikola Popovich's group caught the brunt of that. Meanwhile, for St. Louis FC, just one of their 2 wins in their last 16 matches against Hartford Athletic, grinding out a 3-2 win. And Devin, especially considering how difficult it's been for Hartford Athletic. Obviously, it's been more than difficult for St. Louis FC since their Open Cup run. If they hadn't won that game, it was almost an early season dagger for Anthony Pulis' group.
The biggest issue for St. Louis FC when you look at their body of work is they've shown you some really impressive glimpses. The problem is since that glorious Open Cup run, it has only been finite in the terms of 40, 45 minutes. A lot of slip-ups here and there. And when you talk to the camp itself of what's going on within the organization, a lot of the sentiments coming out of that are maybe things were too strict. Maybe the line that had to be followed was really too tight. Anthony Pulis even acknowledged that as well, saying, you know what, we need to open things up a bit more. Let guys explore the final third, and you've really started to see that recently. Now, can they do it on a regular basis? You have to remember, this team only managed 2 shutouts over the past 2.5 months. They had 6 in their first 10 games. So that's where that defensive composition was pure highlight film, and then they pick and choose their moments going forward. That's what they need to get back to. That's when they were at their best.
And Anthony Pulis has taken a little bit of the blame, if not a lot of it. And while so much of St. Louis's problems in the attacking third are sort of out of Anthony's control, He says that maybe he hasn't been as smart with his substitutions. Maybe he's been a bit too hard on the guys, saying that maybe even creating an environment where guys are afraid to make a mistake, and they sort of all sat down as a group over the past week and a half or so and said, listen, if we're going to do this and if we're going to put this run together at the end of the season, we need to lay all the chips out on the table, because there's no room for that sort of environment where you are afraid to make a mistake, because that just doesn't breed good football.
One of my favorite quotes that I've utilized with you before, but we'll let the folks hear it as well, is came from Pep Guardiola, and it talks about his time at Barcelona, more specifically with Thierry Henry, how he would basically, the coach, would lead you from the back line going forward, and once you got into the final third, it was your turn to really showcase yourself on the offensive side of things. You can't tell Kyle Gregg, I need you to do this all the time, because that's when the craftsmanship is taken away from the game and you lose those glorious moments and double-digit seasons, which they're trying to get him back to.
So a rough challenge, and Victor Rivas has a little bit of the game to settle down now, as Gagnon Laparé was a bit naughty heading into that challenge, and Victor Rivas is basically explaining to him that if I see anything remotely close to that again, it is going to be a booking. But credit to Victor Rivas for keeping the cards in the pocket, at least in the opening 5 minutes.
It's a late challenge from behind as well, and Lewis Hilton smart. That first and second step, always so quick to react, gets out in front of it. And then he knows the challenge is coming, the midfielder allowing that to come back across his body. If you're gonna let it fly right now, that's fine. Referee, just calm everybody down, have a conversation and say, first challenge inside of 5 minutes, no issues. Let's just get back to the business at hand.
Here's Master Kasher into the penalty area, goes for the curler, and a good block from Dakota Barnathan. Kasher has really taken that curling effort and stuffed it into his locker, always at his disposal. Started to hone his craft with Steve Churchu and the Colorado Springs Switchbacks when Steve was in charge. Then, of course, about 18 months or so with the Monarchs. Didn't necessarily get the attacking groove that he had with Colorado Springs over in Harriman, Utah. And now trying to revamp this St. Louis FC side as they make a push for the playoffs.
Especially with the resurgence of Douglas Martinez up top as that youngster who's come in. Now you can move Michael Chang back and forth. They've got so many weapons out there. So a chance for Kasher to really fit in here. I think that'll be a good piece for them. A nice balance to the other side of things and some depth as well. It's pretty much been Dakers and Cicerone the entire season long. And with all the injuries that they've picked up so far, Pulis had to find a way to add some more to his arsenal. He's done just that.
Sean Reynolds trying to get to the outside, and look at the German wall fall, just seal him off. And there's not many players in the Eastern Conference of the USL Championship that are just going to be able to out-muscle Sean Reynolds off the wall. Wall falls, probably one of the few members on that short list. As Callum Irving, the 26-year-old from Vancouver, takes the spot in between the sticks for Nikola Popovic tonight. Probably one of the more underrated keepers within our league. Does an excellent job. She was a Kentucky Wildcat from 2012 to 2015. Spent some time with RGV and the Houston Dynamo as well. And that's a rough challenge from behind. Looked like it was Dakota Barnathan who was the culprit. And again, smart play from St. Louis FC, getting position early on here in the first 7.5 minutes or so. Asked Anthony Pulis the question earlier this week if there was anything that you could say to the fans at this point in time who have sort of endured the struggle with you, what would it be? And he just said, stick with us, because there are good times ahead and we are going to right the ship. But this has obviously been a very difficult stretch off the heels of a magical US Open Cup run, as Lewis Hilton bends one in, but Callum Irving was really sharp off of his line. Carl Howarth, who had a sensational free kick that opened up the scoring against St. Louis in the first 10 minutes. Not the first and won't be the last time that we've seen him do that. And if Carl's unavailable for a set piece, you have Wall Fall waiting right behind him. Haji Barry keeping into play, linesman at a front row view. Barry draws the double team, somehow grits the cross away. Sam Fink clears it straight up in the air. Gagnon Lapare couldn't get there. Carl Howard was teeing it up. And it looked like it took a deflection. Let's see which way Rick Rivas is pointing, and it is in favor of Ottawa.
Can't really fault Anthony Pulis for his sentiments, and the fans should pay attention to that. If you take a look at the two teams that win the deepest from the USL Championship and the Open Cup, that's St. Louis FC and New Mexico United. When you bring it down to the eye test, forget the standings for a second, both of them deserve to be involved in the topic of conversation when it comes to the playoffs. It's just gotten to that point in the year where you cannot let any points escape you, especially at home, and that's got to be a saving grace here for St. Louis FC. As all the struggles have come their way, they have found a way, when they've made their way back home, to continuously get points to the tune of a pretty decent record, and only one loss on the year as well, so some confidence still to be had.
Boehner just trying to go back for Cachere. Hustled away by Fink into the corner. That just might check up for Kyle Gregg, and it does. Gregg working on Barnathan. Lays it off. That's a great little move. Here's Cachere trying to peel it back towards the middle of the field, but not his best ball. He'd be the first to tell you that. Gets a second bite of the apple, though. Sean Reynolds thinking it into space. Dakers trying to get their good defensive prowess from Wall Fall, but taking a stumble is the Ottawa back line. Chance here for Dakers. One too many touches, though. Cachere was waiting right at the edge of the penalty area. Ball never found its way to him. And you can see how quickly Ottawa are trying to go, and that has to be on the scouting report for Nikola Popovic. And what you delved so deep into during the pregame, Devin, was that if you can win the ball back from St. Louis and go quickly and hit that first home run ball, St. Louis is going to be all sorts of exposed.
3 times already they're looking for that long diagonal, and that's when the outside backs get so high. But credit to the center backs once again. Quick little rotation over by Fanuel Kavita on the near side right now, and Sam Fink on that far right. And that's what it all comes down to, those individual battles where you're going to have to take some chances in general, yet alone with so few games left in the course of this season. The question is can you execute? And that's what it's come down to over recent weeks. You said about Ottawa Fury, consistently inconsistent. I really like that because they're a team that has won the games they're supposed to win, but when they've played the quote-unquote better teams, the teams above the playoff line, they haven't exactly been that impressive in their movement so far.
Ottawa 10-5-10 on the season. 2-2-1 in their last 5 games. And if there is a 5-game stretch that is sort of indicative of how they've been playing, well, that just might be it. Haji Barry ends up winning the header, but Lewis Hilton will claim it. A dozen gone here at West Community. Still 0-0 between St. Louis and Ottawa. Header won by Reynolds. St. Louligans, as always, providing the acoustics, providing the music. And even starting to see a little bit of a foot tap from my broadcast partner to my right.
It's the sugar.
Maxime Tissot. Well, Fall trying to somehow finagle his way out of a little bit of trouble. I'm not sure how he got out of that. Must have been Jedi mind tricks. Here's Barnathan. Here comes the pressure. Irving has to get rid of it. Right down the gut. Lewis Hilton trying to clean it up. Nodded over the top. Calvert wasn't all that quick to it. Mayer Giguère. And Ottawa very much a possession-based team. I mean, you can look at Nikola Popovic's teams, even when he was at Swope Park Rangers, and they're always going to try to keep the ball. And with this high press from St. Louis, it is difficult, especially with Ottawa on the road. They were able to establish a rhythm and establish a lead early back at TD Place as Wall Fall's going to go for goal. It wasn't a bad hit whatsoever. Tomas Gomez wasn't sure where that was going, but Wall Fall seeing what the keeper has in his locker tonight.
How many times have we seen this in the past, either from the Rochester Rhinos or St. Louis last year? A quick little look up from distance. That 100% had to be in preparation. Ben's got to rotate over there much quicker, and when you take a look at what Popovich was able to do with Swope Park Rangers, and now what he's brought to Ottawa Fury. Ottawa Fury, the hand he was dealt last year, had to play with some pieces that didn't necessarily fit in, and he had to slow things down, be a bit more direct, and now he's got a nice little mesh of that where you get that fast-paced attack and pressure a la New York Red Bull 2, but also the aggressive defending that you see out of the likes of Pittsburgh Riverhounds, and just kind of blend everything, make sure that each and every game is organized. Again, the problem for them hasn't necessarily been results. It's been results versus better squads, teams with better records.
Haji Berry stood up by Fanuel Kavita. Now here's Basta Cacher. Gets it along for Gaia Ben. A little how do you do from behind from Gagnon Labouré, but somehow finds its way out to Kadeem Dakers. He goes towards the corner. And Maya Jaguar will see it out of play. And speaking of New York Red Bulls 2, boy, if I would have told you this score in the 56th minute, I'm not sure you would have taken the money. 0-0 between John Wolyniec sign and Indy 11. With all the offensive firepower that's on display in that game, hard to believe that they've played almost an hour of scoreless football. Birmingham Legion 2-0 over Atlanta United 2. Goals coming from Brian Wright, which was an absolute peach of a goal, as well as J.J. Williams in the 43rd right before halftime. A couple of Western Conference games later tonight. El Paso Locomotive and Tulsa Roughnecks, Real Monarchs, and Las Vegas Lights FC. It's getting down to that point of the season where every single point counts. And these are the games that if your team does not, or perhaps does qualify for the playoffs, you will look back at these types of games and say, well, what if? Kadeem Dakers, pressure on Maya Jaguar. Maxime Tissot finding Wall Fall. Good header into the middle of the park, looking for Oliveira. Lewis Hilton gets it back. Tidy football here from St. Louis. Hilton is going to take it on the first time. Wasn't a bad idea, but Takona Barnathan is first to it. Calvert nodding it down. Hilton's going to take it with his left foot, and he just pulls it wide, and it looks like it took a deflection. It did. And a corner kick coming up. And of course, the corners, as always, brought to you by Electro Savings.
This isn't a bad shout by Lewis Hilton. Actually thought his decision down in the corner should have pulled it up and allowed a deeper run under the back post. Fortunately enough for him, this ball makes its way all the way back around, and it's one of the ones as a midfielder. Have a little go early on, keep Calling Irving honest. And also, as good as this team is from set pieces, a little deflection here or there, it's never going to bother anyone, especially when you've got your second leading scorer, a la center back Sam Fink up top.
Ball whipped in. Sam Fink was at the near post. He's always the target. Shouts for a handball, not given by Victor Rivas. Boehner feels the pressure nicely. Whipping it in behind the back line. Fink cushions it down. Here's Cacher. He'll take it himself. Comes off of Maya Jaguar and cleared away by Chris Manella. Dakers picking the pass off. St. Louis FC very much on the front foot. Flag stays down. Here's Kyle Gregg finding Cacher. Great little first touch. Cacher going for goal, blocked in front, and a good defensive play from Ottawa Fury again, but they can't clear their lines. Kyle Gregg once more. Sliding it through for Dakers. The pressure has been incessant from St. Louis FC. You just have to imagine they'll get rewarded if it continues in this direction.
Chris Manilla can breathe a sigh of relief as well. Did so good on the defensive side to get the challenge in just at the top of the 18 to immediately give it back to the home squad. Just some of the decision-making down in the final third. Cashier, the quick little look up, play it down in the channel instead of taking 2 and 3 touches. Fortunately enough for him, much like the Lewis Hilton chance moments before, it does come back to him and he gets a second look at it. But those are the things that Anthony Pulis is talking about. When you give yourself the opportunities, they have to be better, and you want the guys to explore their thought process, but at the same point in time, you can't take all day to make those decisions.
Probably the deepest that Ottawa has gotten tonight in possession. Just going to show how dominant St. Louis FC has been in disrupting Nikola Popovic's side as they continue to have to go in a negative fashion, as St. Louis have been unshakable in their shape. Kavita steps forward. Calvert wins the header. Oh, Greg couldn't quite get to it though. Carl Howard, bit of a heavy touch, cleaned up by Lewis Hilton.
We said the discipline by St. Louis FC in transitional defending had to be top-notch in order to get a good result tonight. That's exactly what you're seeing right now. And just keep an eye as Ottawa Fury put the ball on the deck, move it slowly side to side. That's not going to be a good look for them going forward. There's too much quality in the shape of Anthony Pulis and his boys of what goes on the training ground that immediately spills over into game day. Just a real pretty look at the guys working up top, and then the shape that they carry in the middle, tracking all the way back to the back four. The early success, and I use that term very lightly from Ottawa Fury, did come in those 3 looks where it was quick transitions, just rapid fire balls down in, and yes, you're gonna get movement out of Hadji Berry and Gagnon Laparé, but those quick movements are going to allow the space to open up in the channels to allow the movement down in the middle to progress forward.
Big switch the other way for Carl Howard. That's one way to unlock the defense. Howard, the skipper, lashes one across, and Gagnon Laparé with a bit of a cumbersome touch. Calvert brings it down, looking for an option, and does beautifully to find Kyle Gregg. Big run being made on the far side. Calvert able to get there. Cashier holding his run. It's all the way across for Cashier. But how about Callum Irving playing safety along the back line for Ottawa Fury and gets them to safety?
Even when there's a one-on-one challenge on the far side and you get beat, that tiniest of touches allows the goalkeeper to step out. Really well done, but the quick build-up play by St. Louis FC, that's much better going forward.
About halfway through the first half, Tyler Terrence along with Devin Kerr, a massive 3 points on the line between a playoff-less St. Louis FC at the moment and 8th place Ottawa Fury here in Fenton, Missouri, as Hadji Berry switches the point of attack, finding Carl Howard. He lays it off for Charlie Ward, who's going to spray one over to the far side. Here's Oliveira. Won't fall. Makes the first shot. Now will take it with his left. Blocked in front by Sean Reynolds. And helped away by Caleb Calvert. And Wallfall will settle things down for the visitors. How deceptive is the German Wallfall? Continues to be all sorts of problematic for the St. Louis back line. Of course, the former St. Louis man himself, as that ball has some nasty spin on it. Wallfall will take it, and he read that spin the entire way, waiting for it to take that wicked hop over the defender. It'll just be a goal kick, but just goes to show his footballing IQ is off the charts.
With the minuscule angle that he has, you have to wonder why they don't let it go over the end line here and elect for a corner coming off of Lewis Hilton. Watch this bounce. Then to the left foot. That's going to be something glorious from that angle. Yes, wall fall, do or do not. There is no try.
Rough challenge from behind. And it will be a free kick coming up for St. Louis. And Anthony Pulis with a clean pass into Lewis Hilton. Trying to turn back the clock to the days of Orlando City.
Not that long ago, was it?
Feels like it, though.
You say that in front of him. See what his response is.
His response will probably be, my knees feel like it was even longer ago.
Yeah, that's not a bad shout.
Still looks like he can play, though.
Looks can be deceiving.
Just look at you. And that's probably one of the worst set pieces we've seen Lewis Hilton take all year. Good ball the other way for Carl Howarth. Good touch getting around Lewis Hilton. Hilton pulled up with an injury. Howarth along the byline sends it across, but Sam Fick is there. Has to find the safety valve, but problematic here for Lewis Hilton, who pulled up like a wide receiver making a route.
They can't afford another injury. 5 massive pieces right now for St. Louis FC. Just a quick little turn on the outside. Not much to it for Lewis Hilton. Lame right on the end line. Howarth expecting that late run from Kevin Oliveira to develop a quick, faster. And they're looking at that right foot of his. This is the same foot that he took the strike off of right at the top of the 18. That wall fall then elected to get a little cheeky with on the near post. They'll take a long, hard look. Remember, this injury list has gone quite deep. Audie Jepson, Matt Thomas, Albert Tikwa, Joaquin Rivas, Austin Martz, of course, retired. Pieces that were making regular contributions to the starting 11. Now by the wayside, some of them not exactly sure when they're going to make their returns.
And with this guy's incredible mentality, you're going to be hard-pressed to find an injury that's going to keep him off the field. With all these points having so much more value now in early September. Anthony Pulis just loves the work rate and the attitude from Lewis Hilton. Obviously, his set pieces and his delivery are exquisite, but it takes a lot more than that to play the middle of the park in an Anthony Pulis system. One of the best support groups in the entirety of the USL Championship, trying to do their part defensively. Ottawa will go short, pops up, and for Howarth, trying to take it on the first time, and into the practice field.
That's probably where they should put that set piece and leave it there. That's not very good execution by the visiting squad. I like the idea, especially going through Charlie Ward. The problem is a lot of variables coming in where that ball 30 yards out to the top of the 18, then you got to go the exact opposite direction, hoping that that late run by Carl Howarth can develop, and maybe you can sneak one in behind. Just too much out of control that can get away from you. Exactly what goes on, and you just wonder what's the response going to be in terms of Lewis Hilton. You saw him quite ginger in his actions coming off the pitch just moments ago. Anthony Pulis looking, hoping that he's going to be able to get back at it.
Leave it at the practice field, huh? Sound like a Sith Lord with that kind of comment. Just all sorts of dark. Good trouble there for Callum Irving. Dakota Barnathan. And here's Ottawa Fury drawing their line in the sand a bit higher up the field. Difficult for Reynolds. Somehow was able to find Gaia Bend. He gets a sliding touch to it, but a little bit too close to Meyer Giguère. Pressure from Reynolds. Here comes Kadeem Dakers as well. And Dakers is called for the foul. He extended his arm just a bit at the tail end of that. And it's always going to get the head referee's attention. Fans, there's still great seats available for our next home match on Wednesday, September 7th at 7:30 p.m. Central against Nashville Soccer Club. Get your tickets now at stlouisfc.com. Howarth. Patient here from the visitors.
Look at the middle of the field, though. Charlie Ward's come all the way back. You have Manila and Wallfall dropping in as well. There's about a 20-yard gap to the front three of Haji Berry and Oliveira. Lapare on the left side. Someone's got to drop down in and occupy that space.
Charlie Ward picking up the pieces, goes all the way back for Callum Irving. Half an hour gone here. Three points in absolute delicacy in the playoff race in the Eastern Conference. Not nearly as jumbled and of the parity variety like the Western Conference, but if you look at Birmingham, Charleston, St. Louis, and Bethlehem, not a ton separating those two. About a 10 points difference between Bethlehem and the top of that list. As this one looked like it ran out of play, and it did.
There's the way things are playing out at halftime for Birmingham Legion, up 2-0 on Atlanta United 2. It even becomes more valuable for the likes of St. Louis FC that they have to maintain pace with the Charleston Battery. Remember, these teams, St. Louis FC, 4 games in hand based upon their Open Cup run and the way games are moved around. Charleston Battery seems like they've got a weather delay of some sort every other week at this point in time. Most recently Hurricane Dorian, and if the Legion are able to finish this off, that'll put them 6 clear. And I understand there's an extra game in hand there. But to a conversation that I had with one Tyler Terrence, and this sentiment will pretty much ring true with almost all coaches you talk to, they would much rather have the points at this stage in the season than to be on the bottom looking up.
Electrical Connection has partnered with St. Louis FC to create a limited edition jersey flag. Flags are only $10 in the fan shop, with all revenue benefiting the shop with a comp program. Gaia Bend gets it right back and sends it over the top for Cacher. He's onside. Cacher into the area. Puts on a couple of moves, forced to lay it off. Boehner, good touch for Hilton. Cacher back for Hilton. Boehner on the first time, a bit hopeful, and Ottawa cleared away. Bad ball whatsoever from Tomas Gomez. Dakers judges it beautifully. Dakers cutting it back, and a brilliant save from Callum Irving. Got down just in time. St. Louis still have seconds available.
Going more direct in this situation for St. Louis FC. I said it's all going to be about decision making. Love the little nudge down in the corner. Here's Jaguar, just rotation back over, and you can get away with little forearms like that when you're tracking forward. It's the overextension when you push too much that gets you in trouble. But once again, about 30 seconds prior to that, rotation back over to the left-hand side. That's a foul, watch out.
Guy abandoned an extremely high foot on wall fall, and he's going to get booked for that. A bend. Discipline here in the 35th as he's shown mustard. Checking on wall fall, but that always looked dangerous.
We'll get back to our other point in a second as this comes back out. It's the first touch. Escapes him. Well done by Wallfall to utilize that long extension of his pretty tall frame. Boot right to the front of his face. And that left side that we talked about, once again, as the cashier, when the ball comes over, quick little touch, make a decision. If not, have that decision made before the ball even arrives to you. Instead, it's 2, 3, 4 touches once again. The clinical ability down on the offensive side has to be better for St. Louis FC. They have been the better team in the opening 36 minutes, but they have to start taking advantage of some of these opportunities. Ottawa Fury, as we mentioned, are quite disciplined in their actions as well, and if you let them hang around, they will punish you.
So Wallfall gets the necessary treatment. And Victor Rivas still having a conversation with a number of St. Louis FC players. Not exactly sure what Guy Ben's claim to that was, but either way, about 10 minutes until halftime. Still scoreless. And just keeping an eye on the other two Eastern Conference matches going on at the moment. Still scoreless over at Lucas Oil Stadium between Indy 11 and New York Rebels 2. Birmingham Legion coming out of the dressing room at halftime with a 2-0 lead thanks to goals from Brian Wright and J.J. Williams. Barry can't get there. Throwing about 109 yards away from the goal that they're attacking for St. Louis. Asher battling his way through. St. Louis FC get helped out a little bit with the whistle from Victor Rivas. Is that card worthy?
I have no problem with it if the referee does, especially when Lewis Hilton's trying to play.
It's the same as kicking the ball away.
He has been giving second chances here. So at least consistent in that area from Victor Rivas.
Tissot has to clear it away with Kadeem Dakers breathing down his neck. And Jaguar sends it into about the third or fourth row. Good snag from one of the fans here at West Community. And right back to St. Louis. On the door of the 39th minute. Minimal chances for either side. Cashier probably with one of the better opportunities, a shot that was blocked by Dakota Barnathan. And there's claims for a corner as Callum Irving got a touch to that before it left the field of play. And a bizarre corner given but not earned to St. Louis FC. Let's see if this is a mistake that Callum Irving is going to rue tomorrow morning.
All the way down on the end line, and it's one of the ones that it's knocked in. Goalkeeper better safe than sorry at the same point in time. Don't want to gift unnecessary opportunities to the opposition, exactly how it plays out. And just keep an eye right at the penalty mark. Number 4, Sam Fink, that's who they always go after.
Looking for Fink again. Thumped away by Meyer Jaguer.
Now the next time an opportunity comes that direction, you've gone twice to your center back in Sam Fink. Give it another look now. You don't want to push that button too many times, then it becomes predictable. It's difficult to break down offensively.
Now for Gaia Bend. Comes off of Gagnon Laparé, and it'll stay in Ottawa Fury defensive territory. Matchup like we've seen almost the entire first half. So a heavy touch, it allows Calvert to at least be able to challenge it. And now St. Louis will do their best to try to bottle Ottawa in their own camp. Ball fall looking for the big switch. Not a bad idea to find Haji Berry, who's now just going to try to post up on Matt Boehner. Anthony Pulis with a lackluster effort to try to retrieve the ball for Ottawa. Gagnon Laparé feels like he was fouled. Matt Boehner will give it right back to Tomas Gomez. Bit of a stalemate here.
We said that you can do all the scouting and break the styles down of each team, but you still have to execute. And that's kind of where we're at right now with both of these teams. St. Louis FC definitely the better run of form so far, though nothing to show for it in terms of goals. And for Ottawa Fury, just kind of hanging around, thorn in the side. Where can they strike next? This is where they're at their best. Ball out in front, running downhill.
And Gomez will call everyone off.
And you have to wonder for Nikola Popovic, 42 minutes in, you've sat back a lot, and you know that going forward it has to be with more tempo. That's going to be a conversation at halftime, that if we're going to be this good defensively, or at least willing to sit back, we then have to find a way to capitalize on the other side of the ball. They have not been able to do so.
Nasty collision there, as it looked like Gagnon Laparé was shoved into the mix.
Keep an eye on the first challenge here. When he's already gone to ground, that's where the foul occurs. There is a shove from behind. Very well done by Victor Rivas. Sam Fink just extending both of his arms on the back of Laparé as he rotated back over and then rolled into Sean Reynolds.
How about that? Indy 11 take a 1-0 lead over New York Red Bulls 2. Dane Kelly in the 83rd. Happens to love scoring against New York Red Bulls 2. Had a stunner in New Jersey earlier this year.
That'll put him 2 back in front of Jorge Herrera. 73 goals in his career.
Hip hip.
Jorge, shocked that Dane Kelly hasn't had more though. Then again, you would have made the same argument for Enevoldsen prior to his departure. Look how that's working out for Sacramento now.
No foul called by Victor Rivas. And back to that point, I mean, you could be shocked that Enevoldsen ends up leaving in the middle of the season, shocked that there are more goals from Dane Kelly, but the biggest shock of them all is that Tyler Pasher, with all that offensive firepower, is the leading goal scorer on that team. As Walt Fall pushes it out wide, Tissot just rips one across, and it's smothered by Tomas Gomez in the end. don't know what you're doing is the chant from the St. Louligans.
I feel like that was specifically written for me, but then again, I don't want to toot my own horn.
Is that your ringtone for me whenever I call? Birmingham Legion have made it 3-0 over Stephen Glass's Atlanta United 2. Daniel Johnson tacks on a third in the 51st. How hot have they been?
Just another one of those teams that kind of hear that conversation every single year. Someone gets hot down the stretch. Blue City right there in the talking points as well.
How about Pittsburgh?
Pittsburgh 13-1-2, is that right? Or excuse me,
June 15th, they're the hottest team
12-1-3, sorry.
since June 15th,
Yes.
outside of Phoenix.
That is a heck of a number, and to be fair, not a lot of people are talking about that, what they've been doing in the East.
They had a bad loss against North Carolina FC, though, I will say that. You can't lose 5-0 to a side that you're fighting with for playoff position. Here's Dakers getting towards the byline. Dakers puts a shot on, and it's Callum Irving again for Ottawa Fury, who bails them out. And Wall gets bridged, and it'll be a foul coming out the other way. But Callum Irving has denied St. Louis's best two opportunities of the night, and it remains 0-0.
This is another area for St. Louis FC they start to need to explore a bit further. And that's getting out of your comfort zone. When you have a rotation of players moving left to right, it's always difficult as a defender to account for variability. That's what you get out of Kadeem Dakers, rotating over the right-hand side in front of Cashier. And there's a mismarking on the back line of Ottawa Fury. Callum Irving once again.
Stoppage time is presented by Paycor. Need more time in your business? Contact Paycor to handle your payroll and human resources needs. Wallfall has taken a physical beating in the first half of this one. Foot to the face from Gaia Bend. Gets Bridge trying to elevate for that header. Both of Irving's saves have been very reactionary, have been from point-blank distance. And both of them coming from Kadeem Dakers.
Not surprising, Callum Irving willing to step into it. 7 shutouts on the year for Ottawa Fury, but he's got 6 of them. That'll do him for 12th best overall in the USL Championship. A lot of the goalkeepers in the East can be a topic of that conversation.
Anthony Pulis barking for a foul, and he'll end up getting one.
I'll tell you this much, for all of the chatter we saw on social media from the St. Louligans about not a lot of people out, midweek game and a makeup match, they've got a pretty good atmosphere going right now.
Well, they said they were going to need to bring the noise and then some, given the fact that West Community wasn't going to be packed like we're used to seeing it. And they have lived up to the hype. Here comes St. Louis FC. Decent ball into the box, but handled pretty easily by Ottawa Fury. Ottawa trying to play out of pressure. And they'll have to go all the way back for Irving in doing so. Full credit to St. Louis, who have just totally thrown Ottawa off of their game. It has been a more than difficult first half for Nikola Popovic's group to try to establish any sort of rhythm. But like we've seen from St. Louis in this woeful run, they just have not been able to capitalize. And it looks like there's going to be a card issued to Maxime Tussaud on the far side.
Regardless of how you feel in terms of overwhelmance of play, at some point in time you got to step up and finish things off. That's going to go for both of these squads, where some decent looks out of Kadeem Dakers on the right. Master Cashier had a few opportunities that he let go by the wayside, couldn't pull the trigger early enough, space closed down. But on the other side, you get all the way through the first half as we continue to add on stoppage time. Kevin Oliveira, Haji Berry, almost non-existent in their ability to get the ball out in front of them, which are their biggest strangleholds on this game.
Well, same way that we started the first half is how we'll end it. 0-0 between Ottawa and St. Louis FC. Callum Irving with a couple of massive saves for the visitors, and just a couple of goose eggs as we finish the first 45 minutes. Devin Kerr, your thoughts?
We've talked about it a couple times, but St. Louis FC just has to finish when they get into the final third. Creating opportunities have to be better. If I'm Popovich, I'm talking to Chris Manila and Wallfall. They have to find a way to start to explore a bit more in the middle and help get the ball to the front three. What is the conclusion of your thought process going to look like going forward? Both of these teams need to ask themselves that question at halftime.
We're headed to halftime, which is sponsored by Electrical Connection. Don't go anywhere, folks.
The excitement that is sweeping the nation has arrived in St. Louis.
And a goal! It's Cicerone!
Fans are loving the authentic soccer experience. Tailgating, cheering, chanting, and much more. It's a party you won't want to miss.
Goal! St. Louis FC! And a goal!
Get your tickets at stlouisfc.com.
Junior programs, basically there's two sides of it. There's a rec side and there's a select side, and basically it's for ages 2 to 12.
So you start off by doing a little bit of a warm-up.
It's a developmental, kind of want to introduce the players to the game and kind of all in a fun environment and create a positive experience.
Our staff is first class, our facilities first class, and it's really a first class program.
Halftime here on Star Wars night between St. Louis and Ottawa Fury FC, and the Stormtroopers are currently at a standstill and in a holding position. Is that a Wookiee in the background?
It's an Ewok.
Is it an Ewok? It isn't. That's a big Ewok, though.
Widget.
You gotta get one of the kids to be an Ewok. We've all heard the expression wrong place at the wrong time. Often it refers to a bit of bad luck. For Fanuel Kavita, it's an accurate description of the time and place he was born. Tonight, we go behind the shield with the St. Louis FC center back.
There was war going on in my country. It was terrifying, leaving your country for so many bad things going on. It made me grow up a lot faster than the kids around me, because I was seeing terrible things around me, but you also have to have that mindset of, hey, there's a better place coming. It wasn't always the easiest, because I have a lot of family members, which made it great, because everyone's looking after each other, but it was terrifying leaving your country, but it was a good situation to leave because there were so many bad things going on. I love my family to death. It's just, the reason why we're so tight is because we had nothing else other than ourselves and each other to look after. So when you get out of a situation that we came from, you know who you came with. Those are the people you were fighting with and going through all this hardship with, and it builds character amongst each other, and it just builds bonds. And we have some strong bonds.
Loose in the box, what a finish! St. Louis equalize! Then it's the veteran Fanuel Kavita.
He's certainly got attributes to go on and play higher, and again I think he's shown this year with the consistency of his performances at centre-back of why he was in that MLS environment at Salt Lake. He's very hungry to learn, very hungry to improve, is very humble, and is fantastic to work with.
He's thriving to be a better coach, I'm thriving to be a better player, and he's constantly teaching. And I think when we're both trying to grow our game, in whichever that may be, it builds the team as well. So I think the way he goes about it, I think it's fantastic. Fanuel Kavita, I play for St. Louis FC, number 3.
Awesome stuff from Fanuel as we go behind the shield with just an awesome center back and an even better person. And we'll step aside yet again and check in with the USL Championship and League One for that matter. May the force be with you.
On top of the box, strikes it true, back of the net. Oh, what a finish, Bustamante.
The attempt at an amazing goal. And maybe a goal of the year candidate from Rodrigo da Costa.
And here we go again. Kadima! Oh, what a strike.
Has been in the 11. And there's an effort from distance with Irving off his line. And that's a goal for the highlight reel there.
Oberg there. Plua, shot, goal! Plua with the bicycle! Conrad Plua! Dillon goes for goal. Oh, what a strike from Justin Dillon!
Now Gallardo for his brace tonight. Gallardo. A nutmeg of St. Phil, what an opportunity for Joe Gallardo, a brace, and it's 4 goals for the Richmond Kickers. Mikey Rowe now. Rowe takes it on, and it's in! What a strike! And Tormenta. Very patient, here's Bermudez now back on his left foot, a curler for the top corner. Oh, what a goal! Bermudez.
Torre will shoot. Oh. He will score. Javon Torre.
What did you say that you walked in?
Oh, something's good. Oh my goodness. Lubin, what a save. Outstanding individual effort. They stand together. Some outrageous goals in the USL Championship and League One respectively. Unbelievable stuff. Phoenix and Vegas will go head-to-head in Wednesday Night Soccer, which will be on a Wednesday night this weekend. We will take a look at some news and notes from around the USL Championship as the Stormtroopers continue to get inquired about their firearms here in Fenton, Missouri. And Phoenix rising 17 wins in a row, looking for number 18 against Darren Powell and San Antonio FC, who continue to be sort of like the West Coast version of Ottawa, and consistently inconsistent. USL, of course, reaching their new deal with ESPN. Great news for the fans and for everybody who continues to want to soak in the USL Championship. International duty is a call-in for 26 players from the Championship and League One for World Cup qualifying, as well as the vaunted CONCACAF Nations League. And we'll take a look at the upcoming schedule. As you can see, a number of just mouth-watering fixtures. Charlotte Independence playing host to the Tampa Bay Rowdies. How about Pittsburgh and Louisville? Saturday, 7 Eastern time. Atlanta United 2 will try to bounce back after what looks like is going to be a loss against Birmingham Legion. St. Louis will play host to Nashville right here at West Community. And then the Charleston Battery hopefully will get their game in against Indy 11, but with their luck, who knows? And North Carolina will play host to Bethlehem on Saturday as well. A full slate coming up on the weekend. And we'll take a look at the Eastern Conference standings. And at the moment, Evan, as we talked about, it is Ottawa Fury right now sitting in 8th place. They're chasing the likes of Louisville, North Carolina, and if they are to get past the 7th seed, they can avoid that play-in game, which is going to be so crucial given the fact that especially if you're in the 8, 9, 10 position, you're going to have to go on the road, or 9, 10 position, I should say.
You good there?
Yeah, I'm good.
We'll get
numbers. Yep.
Good news for Ottawa Furies. They have an opportunity, not just tonight, of course, but in the next 3 games, they're going to challenge teams right around them. And Atlanta United 2, they got to go on the road to Indy 11 and Tampa Bay Rowdies, and they can start to pull themselves up the Eastern Conference if possible. I think the shout that they could move into the top 4 is probably a stretch at best. We've seen stranger things, though.
We have indeed. We have seen stranger things, but tonight we see Star Wars. We do not see dead people. We'll step aside.
The excitement that is sweeping the nation has arrived in St. Louis.
And a goal! It's Cicerone!
Fans are loving the authentic soccer experience. Tailgating, cheering, chanting, and much more. It's a party you won't want to miss.
Goal! St. Louis FC! And a goal!
Get your tickets at stlouisfc.com.
With the opposite foot, and then when I say make it bigger, it just means get a bigger V.
I think it's really important that one, they get feedback on what they're doing correctly and what they could do better, letting them get the repetitions over and over and over again and making sure they're doing it right.
Powerful locked ankle touch with the inside part of your foot.
This is my opportunity to help them get better and teach them, and that's what I spend most of my time during training focused on, is improving that overall technique.
Execute order 66.
That's what we're going with.
Stormtrooper.
You got guys out on the field that can make the Kessel run in under 12 parsecs, and that's what
Oh,
we're leading down
yes,
with.
yes, that's what I'm talking about.
One of those guys was Kadeem Dakers, but how about Wall Fall, who got things started off early, and it was from distance. Quite impressive, but to be honest, they needed to get more out of him. He, Charlie Ward, and Chris Manila need to find a way to take over this midfield, and St. Louis FC has seen this all too often, where he decides to just pull the trigger. Very fortunate for Tomas Gomez that this pushes to the side. St. Louis FC, could they find a way to not only sit defensively, but provide some of those brilliant glimpses we've seen for? This is the best build-up on the night so far. Great little touch inside, over rotation and out. Should have hit that ball first time. Immediately, when you look up, you have to step in, put your momentum behind it. Instead, there's a little delay. Caleb Calvert can't get it across quick enough. Master Cashier gets thwarted off on the back post run.
Well, it's half chances galore for both sides. Callum Irving would come into the scene just a little bit later in terms of what they're able to do. But how about Carl Howarth and what he's able to accomplish in the attacking third? Probably one of the more advanced right backs you'll see in the league.
This is the initial injury to Lewis Hilton as well. There's actually a strike before, and then he pulls up lame on the touchline. You just wonder if that's going to plague him pulling into the second half. We said we liked what we saw out of Kadeem Dakers. This is kind of why. It's a quick little shoulder charge, pull it back across the body, and then unleash it. More importantly, he understands that it can't just be one-on-one on the far touchline. Rotates in here, and notice, a lot of space at the top of the 18, wins his one-on-one battle. Callum Irving steps up and makes a phenomenal save once again. If they're going to have success in the offensive third, you feel like you want to keep pumping some momentum to Kadeem Dakers.
Well, St. Louis FC trying to get riled up, and it's their leader and captain, Sam Fake, the heartbeat of this side. Colin Fernandez coming on as a substitute at halftime, of course, being acquired from Phoenix Rising FC, and Fernandez coming on and replacing Lewis Hilton. What does that change in the middle of the field for Anthony Pulis?
It's going to be interesting exactly how much distribution you get out of Colin Fernandez. The way that that relationship has played out recently is there's a nice little ebb and flow. Now that Ben's in there, don't be surprised if you see the extension coming from Colin Fernandez going a bit more, trying to find a way to find Caleb Calvert and Kyle Gregg with the Ben sitting a bit deeper. He'll still help out on the offensive side of things, but Colin Fernandez is going to have to share the brunt of it.
All right, and away we go in the second half. 0-0 between St. Louis and Ottawa. If it stays this way, not much will change in the standings, if anything. And it'll be another disappointing draw for St. Louis and a hard-earned point on the road for Ottawa. But if both teams want to get to where they want to be, Ottawa perhaps outside of that play-in cutoff line, and for St. Louis, they just want to get inside the cutoff line, period. Tyler Terrence along with the former German pro Devin Kerr. So glad to have you with us on a little midweek madness Wednesday on Star Wars night right here in Fenton, Missouri. If there was one other movie that you could have be a night at a stadium, what would it be? Movie, trilogy, what have you?
I was just going to say, is it a movie? Is it a franchise? What am I looking at here?
Franchise. Trilogy, whatever you want to call it.
If you ain't first, you're last. Talladega Nights. That's a fun one for me. The mockumentary of Days of Thunder.
I don't even know if you can.
You can do it.
Can you? With what? Where you can dress up in costumes, everybody gets it.
There's going to be vulgarity floating around all over the stadium. So maybe not necessarily one for the kids.
Okay. Yeah, not Talladega Nights. Definitely not that. Could you do a Toy Story night? Like, I don't even know if that's...
I'm not interested in that.
Okay.
That's your generation.
Well, I don't know what that means. Toy Story is timeless. You don't have a friend in me. Tell you what, Sean Reynolds and Kevin Oliveira not making any friends, and Oliveira will keep going, stays on his feet. Fair play to him. Here's Wall-Fall now. Switches the point of attack. Carl Howarth settles it down. There's Chris Manella in support. There's Jaguar, hopeful. Oliveira somehow got a chest to it, but cleared away by St. Louis, and it'll stay with Ottawa. We do have a final score over at Lucas Oil Stadium. Dane Kelly's goal holds up in the 83rd, 1-0 win for Indy 11. Fernandez can't take Wall-Fall off the ball. Brushes Gaia Bend away. Done from Boehner. Fernandez into space. And it's Kyle Gregg now. Has the defender on his left side. Gregg cutting it back. Now we'll go for goal. It takes a deflection. Up and over the bar. And a corner kick coming up for St. Louis.
This is nothing against Caleb Calvert. But you've got two real similar players. And he and Kyle Gregg up top. And when Gregg gets this ball in front of him, he's got a real good chance to play this back across the middle. The problem is the speed. Not on full exposition for Calvert. Just trailing into your screen right there at the end of it. Kadeem Dakers coming from a deeper position. Took him a bit longer, but if you bring on someone like Tyler Blackwood, they can extend the field a bit more in situations like that.
Good delivery, and Sam Fink was there, and he pulled out just at the last second.
As a defender, this ball gets whipped in, you're just going, I got a bad feeling about this. Back post run. I mean, you have to wonder, what's the conversation here between he and Caleb Calvert? Both of them really good in the air.
When has that man ever shied away from a header on a set piece? I mean, he and Lewis Hilton go together like lamb and tuna fish. Could do an Adam Sandler night.
I'm still racking my brain on what's good for everybody involved. The kids, the parents, me.
Dakers wants it back, he'll get it back. Dakers into the area, nodded away. That stays in play. Dakers back in towards the back post, and Callum Irving gets drilled from behind. And it will be a foul. Callum Irving has had a near flawless 50 minutes of football.
Notice how quickly he gets off the pitch as well, sending a message to his teammates as well as to Kyle Gregg. Bit of wondering with Kadeem Dakers how he's not offside in this situation, standing right on the line as this ball came back across. There is higher energy from Ottawa Fury so far in the second half here. Still asking though, can they keep it up? Find a way to get their midfield three more involved. Interesting rotation here, and you can see immediately Cristiano Francois drastically missed with his speed and clinical ability. He's one of those guys that is on international duty with Haiti, his first ever call up to the senior squad.
Dakers towards the edge of the area. It's a difficult ball to try to handle if you are Caleb Calvert, but a thumbs up of approval.
With Cristiano Francois out, you have Chris Manila, who moves off the back line into the middle. Lapare steps out of that spot, moves up top with the front three. Mayor Jaguar goes to the back line, and you can just see that it's not as quick or shifty up top that we've seen in games past from Ottawa Fury, especially considering St. Louis FC saw this recently. They've definitely done their homework. You just wonder, how different is it with the Haitian international on the field?
Certainly deserves it, though. He's been in top form. Put on quite the performance against the Bethlehem Steel. He and Kevin Oliveira were just running circles around Brendan Burke's side. Dakers keeps it in play. He's been a problem tonight for Ottawa. Anthony Pulis liking the effort that he sees, especially on the defensive side of the ball at the moment. Reynolds, long throw in, bounces. Cacher trying to bring it down, cushions it down. Here's Fernandez now. Now it's Haji Berry on the other end. How many times have we called his name tonight? Probably could count him on one hand, as he has been neutralized and then some. We'll see Obasi come on and replace Maxime Tissot. Have to wonder if this is managing minutes. But a very early substitution, not even 8 minutes into the second half. Tissot's night comes to a conclusion in the 54th.
If you do see any rotation on the back line for Popovich, it is generally at this left back position. Howarth always there on the right, and you don't want to change out your center backs unnecessarily So it always does come with some new energy to see if they can balance the attack. Hasn't exactly been what they've been looking for going forward so far.
Wall fall. Good ball in for Gagnon Laparé. Stays on his feet. Fall takes over. A couple of great step overs, still with it. Mesmerizing stuff from the German. Out wide for Kevin Oliveira. Back for Fall. Again, chops it back. Ball's glued to his foot. Now picture perfect ball for Howard. Last across. And it'll eventually go out of play, but Wall Fall had the entire St. Louis FC backline dancing to whatever song he wanted.
The first touch by Carl Howarth was pretty impressive as well. We've seen that quite a few times here tonight. That chance in the first half where he got all the way to the end line, turning Lewis Hilton around in circles, and then spraying it back across. Same goes for this opportunity when he picks it up and puts it back across the middle. Unfortunately, no one able to get onto the end of it, and St. Louis FC trying to stretch it now.
Kyle Gregg, double down quickly. Recover from Charlie Ward. Should also be noted that Maxime Tussaud was on a yellow card. So the last thing Nikola Popovic wants to do is go down to 10 men on the road against a side like St. Louis FC. Long thrown again from Sean Reynolds. Not dealt with properly by Ottawa. Gagnon Laparé gets it away. Only as far as Kavita, who just scoops it back in. Shouts for a penalty. 9 times out of 10, you're certainly not getting that call. Unless you're refereeing, of course.
Not exactly sure I can imagine myself as a center referee, and that's not happening whatsoever. Well done by the referee. Linesman, maybe.
4th official. You'd look good holding up that board. Yeah.
It's comfortable.
A little show pony.
Someone's got to do it.
Why not Devin Kerr, the ex-4th official?
Well, I'd be sitting there as an AR running up and down the line, pushing the button the entire time. Trying to get the head ref's attention.
Corner kick for the visitors. Still looking for a breakthrough. Two very stingy sides. Short corner to Oliveira. He stays on his feet, puts it across, and Tomas Gomez handles it rather cleanly.
A bit of miscommunication on this set piece coming out of the corner as Obasi had actually started to drift out. Can imagine that based upon the poor first touch, this was supposed to then rotate all the way to the back post. They couldn't finish things off.
Would you like to see Cashier with all that momentum and the defender backpedaling just continue to go?
Run at him. It's funny though, you can see the confidence is lacking from Master Cashier, where in the first half he had plenty of space, then took too many touches, let guys close him down, and then couldn't make the right decision. This time he's got plenty of room and he releases it too early. So he's obviously in his mind not exactly sure what direction he wants to go. That's got to come from your teammates and from the sideline as well. Just settle things down and try and get him back on track.
Boehner just launches it the other way. Barnathan under pressure.
If I'm Boehner, I'm grabbing this ball, throw it into a bend real quick, and just bring it all the way across. It take too long, and you can see the markings starting to add up. Manila right in front of you, and there's a really good look at Laparé, who's rotated back over now as well. Looks like Kevin Oliveira now going to the left. Haji Berry moving in to the center of the park.
Reynolds, ball in for Gregg. Again, he felt like he was taken down, but no call from the official. And he commits the retaliation after the fact, and will not be surprised to see a booking here.
Kyle Gregg letting the emotion get the best of him. That's twice now in back-to-back opportunities in the box. He felt like he was hard done by the referee. And as Obasi just trying to play out of the back, gets in behind. Surprised that he gets out scot-free.
And Giguère just clips it into the channel, hoping that Oliveira will be able to make something out of nothing. Good defending, though, from the former Louisville man and Sean Reynolds. Small fall, good distribution. Howarth getting forward. Fakes the delivery, back on his left. Back for Manella. Fernandez defending. St. Louis fans getting a little bit anxious with this composed possession, and the commentators curse in full effect as they give it away. Gaia bends. Fernandez showing good strength. Cachera, heavy touch, and Callum Irving should be able to scoop that up. Devin, let me ask you this question. We had the pleasure of watching Colin Fernandez a decent amount over at Phoenix Rising FC, his most previous club. As Kadeem Dakers able to find a little bit of space here. Dakers going for goal, and Callum Irving, another solid save. We'll get to that in a moment as Kadeem Dakers continues to be the one catalyst moving forward for Anthony Pulis.
Watch the form by Callum Irving on this. Said the success from St. Louis FC would come from number 13, but as he pulls this back across and makes something out of nothing, goalkeeper getting really low. That overextended left arm keeps the ball out in front of him. Recognizes that he can spill a second chance opportunity if need be, as no one's closing the gaps in front. Caleb Calvert not coming in on the deflection coming through.
And it'll be Russell Cicerone, the Michigan native, coming on and replacing Master Cachere, who had a somewhat disappointing night, but Cicerone always a spark plug off the bench. Devin, the question I was going to pose to you was, is St. Louis a club that you thought that on the Eastern Conference side of things that Colin Fernandez could fit into even before this whole thing came about and him leaving Phoenix?
Multiple clubs, St. Louis would be one of them. Not overwhelmingly, but yes. The problem I have with the midfield of St. Louis, and this has nothing to do with their philosophy, is I don't have one true playmaker. I don't have an out-and-out number 10 who's going to push things forward. And to be fair, that's how they want it. But you've basically got the combination in the likes of Lewis Hilton and Colin Fernandez, who's been the go-to recently.
Oliveira, great little change of pace. He gets fouled, and a dangerous set piece coming up, especially with the likes of Carl Howarth on the field. It's going to be a yellow card as well issued to Fernandez. And this just spells disaster right now for St. Louis.
Kevin Oliveira had come all the way to the left side. This time he just brings himself back in, and Colin Fernandez recognizes that maybe he can get away with a late challenge. Unfortunately does not. He'll go into the book 63rd minute. We'll double back on the thought process of Colin Fernandez and where he would have fit in the Eastern Conference after the chances. There are so many talented individuals wanting to stand and hit this one. And what you're seeing right now, it looks like it is going to be Carl Howarth. 4 set-piece chances this year have ended up in the back of the net. That is best in all of USL Championship, a guy who is lethal from pretty much any angle that you give him a shot at. And though this is off-center, keep an eye. Saw him hit one like this a few weeks ago where it actually went against the grain and brought it all the way to the goalkeeper's non-shielded side, brought it away from the wall, basically right where the space was being occupied by the netminder, put it right in that upper corner.
Howarth will go for goal. It takes a deflection and a corner kick for the visitors. He was a bit deceptive with that. He was looking towards the runs in the box to sort of make it seem like he was going to deliver and trying to catch Tomas Gomez napping in between the sticks, and Thiago's going to come on and replacing Wall Fall here in the 65th minute.
And the movement out of Ottawa Fury has become quite interesting over the past 10 minutes, where they've really brought Lapare inside. They're letting him roam a bit instead of being on that front line where he's starting to occupy a 10. Still rotation out on the right-hand side as well, but much more of a centrally located player as opposed to one of the attacking three up top with Oliveira and Barry. See if they continue that way with bringing fresh legs and the likes of Thiago on.
Towards the back post, and handled by Gomez. And this is very much minute managing for Nikola Popovic, with his side enduring a 3-game road swing to the likes of St. Louis, Atlanta United 2, and Indy 11 over the span of a week.
Let's copy back to the Colin Fernandez thought. And for St. Louis FC, the way that they're set up, and you're starting to see it play out tonight, where you just don't necessarily have that bulldog in the middle that wants to go forward and go forward at a rapid pace. You're getting some pretty good looks out of Kadeem Dakers on the outside, and starting to see more movement up top from Kyle Gregg.
Sean Reynolds able to get there, puts it across, handled by Ottawa again. Thiago. Look at the pressure from Reynolds.
He's just very much, to me, an out-and-out number 8, and a guy who you don't necessarily want sitting on the defensive front, a la Charlie Ward trying to get this attack going forward, but not a guy that's necessarily going to score 5, 6, 7, 8 goals for you and be that focal point number 10.
Just connect the dots.
Exactly. You just want him to be that swing arm from the middle. I like him in a 4-2-3-1 where he can sit back and he can make that step, but also sit on the defensive side. You can run him into a 4-1-4-1 a la North Carolina FC. He could sit deep in the midfield, but give you that push forward in Louisville City. And seems like Sam Fink is upset that maybe someone stole his chocolate milk.
Sam Fink is the purveyor of all things milk of the chocolate variety that we were made privy to earlier this season. Doesn't really indulge in the adult beverages, but loves a nice crisp glass of chocolate milk after games. Callum Irving with a wildly athletic play.
The way that he carries himself and the multitude of times that we've been able to speak to him, tell me you wouldn't go to a war for a guy like that. I mean, you could hear the passion in his voice. And absolutely. Yeah. And you can hear that just kind of talking with him, oh, this was good, that was bad. He believes each and everything that he speaks to you about. And there is a true passion, which is why he's been able to lift this team up multiple times when asked of him.
And why he was the man in the US Open Cup run. That stopped at the hands of the eventual champions in Atlanta United, as this is a teasing ball in, but Gomez off of his line. That was a game against Atlanta United in which they had their chances. Sam Fink in particular was left wide open for some unearthly reason. Atlanta United back line just chose not to defend Sam Fink a couple of times. He didn't make them pay. And it was interesting talking to Anthony after that game, because he was just really frustrated how the run came to an end, because it wasn't like Atlanta United picked them apart for a brilliant goal. It was one mistake from Matt Boehner, and then it was basically in desperation mode. They fouled Dion Pereira, and then it's Joseph Martinez from the spot, and they lose 2-0. But that was a game that they easily could have done the same thing that they did to FC Cincinnati and Chicago Fire to Atlanta United. Oliveira thought about taking it on the first time. St. Louis awkwardly cleared away. Now here's Charlie Ward. Sam Fink did well. Fernandez onto the feet of Kyle Gregg. Reynolds away from trouble.
Just take a look at the different shape you're seeing out of Ottawa Fury in the middle of the field right now. Charlie Ward still sitting in that deep 6 spot. But you've got Chris Manila, Thiago, and Laparé, who are starting to shapeshift a bit, where they're going to turn it into a box of 4 at times. Laparé will step one up, Thiago will sit, Manila will go with him. And just allowing those 3 to be a bit more fluid in their actions going forward. They're trying to find a way to break down this very stout back line of St. Louis FC.
You know that conversation we were having about what other trilogies, series we could do a night for?
Tell me.
Ottawa Fury, home game against Hartford Athletic on Sunday, September 22nd. Wands and Wizards night. For Magic, for the Fury.
I'm out.
You're not a Harry Potter guy. Now that is more my generation. I will give you that.
I respect Harry Potter very much.
Harry Potter is, now hear me out on this.
Easy.
Hear me out on this.
Easy.
For my generation is the new Star Wars. I'm not saying it is Star Wars and you can never, they're just 2 completely different things, but I'm just saying. Devin Kerr has officially walked out of the broadcast booth. I'm sorry, folks, but you'll just have to listen to me for the rest of the night. Oh, look, he's coming back.
Oh, I didn't want that to happen. Couldn't subject our disciples who are kind enough to listen to us for just you for the final 20 minutes. I understand the reference. Just don't agree with it.
Okay, that's fine. You don't have to agree with it. Ottawa looking to go the other way quickly. Chris Manella taking the space given to him. Closed down quickly by Fernandez. Charlie Ward. It's a good idea. Forces Matt Boehner to come off of his little island over there at the left back position. Takers with a cool head. Sean Reynolds right in front of Nikola Popovic.
We talked about the discipline of St. Louis FC and what that was going to look like in order for them to have success. It's on full display right now. But with Ottawa Fury trying to compact the middle of the field, the wings are starting to open up a lot more. They have to take advantage of all this space.
Dakers, a great way to split the double team and relieve a little bit of the pressure. Here it comes again. And a foul by Thiago and a set piece coming up for the home side, much to the delight of the St. Louis faithful.
Well done here by Dakers, and so fleet of foot in his actions. We saw that in the opening 45 minutes. Just quick little touch around Thiago, and it was enough. The Brazilian catches this left knee right in front of the referee as well. Not a lot behind it, but the tiniest of touches to force the whistle. And I like the look by Sean Reynolds as well. He really challenged the Brazilian, gave that look down to the channel where he had to keep him honest. Colin Fernandez, beautiful left foot. We saw him in Phoenix hit a couple. Unfortunately, that pecking order was a long list that he fell behind. Look at the near post, just loads of space right now.
It's Fernandez. Oh, and it was just out of the reach of Sam Fink. And somehow Irving able to make the play in all that traffic.
It's amazing to me, by the way, that with all the video you're going to watch on this team on set pieces, there is only one person that it's going to go to, and it's Sam Fink. Put 2 bodies in front of him. Even a little jersey chug right in the middle is fine. Pull him off a little bit, get a little charge, use the body to your advantage, and push him away from the ball. Instead, he always finds himself right place, right time.
Tyler Blackwood getting set to come on for St. Louis FC. A little more than 15 minutes remaining here in Fenton, Missouri. Still no score in a pivotal Eastern Conference matchup in the USL Championship on a September 4th. A foul whistled against St. Louis FC as Kevin Oliveira went down. And it will be Tyler Blackwood coming on here and replacing Caleb Calvert. Blackwood was part of sort of that two-thirds of the way season through retooling of the roster in the likes of bringing in Colin Fernandez, Tyler Blackwood, and Master Kacher. All substitutes exhausted by Anthony Pulis, one remaining for Nikola Popovic.
Understandably so for Tyler Blackwood, the opportunity coming not only to St. Louis FC, but the Eastern Conference with the move by Eni Voltson coming out of Indy 11. A lot of firepower there in California, and it was quickly falling behind. An opportunity for him now to come back to the East Coast. Of course, Tampa, D2, and USF boy.
Dinked in by Howarth, good ball. Boehner got the first touch to it. Obasi bothered by Blackwood. Assistant referee loses his flag, but is still able to point to the corner. Well done from RAR.
Do they try and find a way to utilize Obasi? Last time out was kind of slow getting going and quite interesting. 6'4" tall, not really utilizing him to the best of his abilities. A bit of chest down the stretch here 15 minutes ago. Both managers trying to make the final changes. As we mentioned, Haji Berry, Kevin Oliveira drastically missing their striking partner, and Cristiano Francois. Berry will take a seat. Daniels will come on.
And Daniels just 20 years of age. Is it simply Cristiano Francois' ability to carry balls? I mean, it's so crucial to watch him to be able to just dissect the opposition's defensive 30. There's so many other things, but it just seemed like they were missing somebody to really run at the back line of St. Louis when they were exposed in 1v1 situations.
And you have seen that out of Carl Howarth on the right-hand side. Unfortunately, there's no balance to it, and that's what we talked about. Could you find a way to get it from both the right and the left? And when St. Louis started to sit, what was it going to look like for you going forward? They haven't evolved at all.
Gagnon Lapare sees his shot blocked before it could get to Tomas Gomez. Thiago will reposition himself. Obasi back for Thiago. Kavita out to defend. Thiago, good ball into the middle. Sam Fink wins it. And Carl Howarth will see it out of play, and another corner kick coming up for Ottawa.
If I'm Ottawa Fury, I'd like to play quick here as well. You're starting to get to that point. You've brought your subs on, fresh legs. Let's push the tempo a little bit and see if you can go after St. Louis. Don't allow them to get reorganized just as you're doing right now.
Back in all the way through. Takers gets ahead to it. Oliveira brings it down beautifully. Oliveira now trying to get around Kyle Gregg, still with it, dancing, trying to get to the byline. And look at Kyle Gregg, the striker, put on a 1v1 defensive clinic against Kevin Oliveira. Didn't expect that result.
It's well done by the striker, and very unfortunate as he tries to distribute this out. Try and hit the reset button for a squad. Comes off Victor Rivas, our head referee. Great footwork on full display. Doesn't overexpose himself. Just tangos a little bit inside the 18.
Victor Rivas having a conversation with Anthony Pulis, and the St. Louligans and company not happy about the result of it. Long-range effort from Thiago. Greg wins the header. Here's Blackwood, and it's in for St. Louis. And it just might be a game winner with 10 minutes remaining. Tyler Blackwood, a marquee goal in a St. Louis kit.
This is why they brought him here. The 1-2 punch. Speed and size. Greg and Calvert start the game, but you didn't have the ability to really go at the center of the defense. When this ball gets flipped back over the top, Kyle Greg does his job. All he has to do is get the tiniest of touches, quick little flick on, and then it's off to the races. Blackwood knows that his speed is always going to be better than Dakota Barnathan. Allows it to come all the way back across his body. Deft little flick to the bottom corner. Everything that you could ask out of your substitute and more. The fourth is strong with that one.
St. Louis FC goal, his first of the season.
Smiles from ear to ear from Kyle Gregg, Tyler Blackwood, and this entire St. Louis FC squad. And that goal delivered by Tyler Blackwood, and of course Domino's.
In the 80th minute, Blackwood from Greg.
How do the visitors from Canada respond? Howarth takes the cross again. Now we'll loop it in. Oliveira going for the spectacular. Tyler Blackwood getting his first goal in a St. Louis kit. And it could not have come at a better time. One game at a time, one goal at a time for Anthony Pulis' club.
And as things stand, St. Louis is in, Charleston Battery is out.
Charleston do have a game in hand in this scenario. You would think that they would have about 17 given how many games they've had postponed this year. Challenge from Boehner. Long switch intended for Oliveira, brings it down beautifully. A nice little nutmeg, but too heavy of a touch getting it through the legs of Sean Reynolds. And if Ottawa Fury are to drop all points tonight, it would put Birmingham Legion within striking distance of Nikola Popovic's group, only 3 points behind. Ottawa on 39, Birmingham on 36. Who would have thought just about a month ago that Birmingham could be threatening the 8th spot in the Eastern Conference?
For St. Louis FC, they are in the driver's seat, an area that they are quite comfortable in. 6-1-1 over 8 games when they score first. The only loss was coming off that beautiful goal that Boehner had back on June 8th at Hartford Athletic. Rasmussen and Harry Swartz would tell a different tale. Tyler Blackwood feeling like he could maybe grab a second.
Manella. Obasi. St. Louis more than willing to let Ottawa Fury swing it along their own back line. Thiago. Oh, so patient here for the visitors. Manella over the top. Howarth brings it down. Challenged by Cicerone, through Cicerone. Howarth still with him, but one too many touches. And Howarth barking at Thiago right at the edge of the area.
He's not wrong either. Thiago wanted this ball initially, and sometimes you don't necessarily understand the viewpoint that an attacker is dealing with. Carl Howarth wanted this run to the back post, and that's probably the better look here, where Thiago, not only is he going to get more space out in front of him, but as he goes to the back, he drags the runner with him, and you open up more space on the top of the 18, provide multiple options for Carl Howarth.
Manella. 87th minute now. Tyler Blackwood has the game winner as it stands. Obasi. Great little feint. Obasi into the middle. Pinballs around a little bit. And a sliding effort from Gaia Ben gets it away for the moment, and Tyler Blackwood helps it even further. And it just seems like when Ottawa get to that final moment, it's either the right run is not being made, the right pass is not connected, and they just look out of sorts.
It's only going to get more difficult with 3.5 left to go in this match when the space starts to condense even more. St. Louis will drop into a deeper block. You're already seeing Tyler Blackwood starting to come back and help out defensively, just as he did on the challenge a second ago. The quick movements down on the wings have to become more affluent. That's where they've been at their best, and those overlapping runs from Carl Howarth, you have to find a way to get the guys up top on the same page. Drastically lacking in form in the final third.
Foul called against Ottawa. And it'll be Thiago who's going to get booked for it as well. And that's tough from Carl Howarth.
Say it, yeah.
Well, I'm not going to say that, but it was rushed from Howarth, who was upset with the referee that he was being pushed back. A quick throw-in that was sort of unwarranted into the middle of the field, and then puts his teammate in a tough spot here.
What are you supposed to do with Thiago? You're not going to put your foot out? It's a really difficult. I would have done the exact same thing. And because it's a counter-attacking opportunity with space to be had, referee has to go to his book. I understand it. The discipline from Carl Howarth, just escaping him a little bit here as the home squad really grabbing some momentum from this match. Each and every second so vital. Ottawa Fury letting it slip away.
Manella working on Tyler Blackwood. Here comes Cicerone with the double team. Cleared away by Barnathan. Blackwood again, how good has he been since coming on? Tries to pull it back. Clever from Charlie Ward. Dakers does well. Sean Reynolds now trying to pick somebody out. But gets stood up by Obasi, that's clean. Gagnon Laparé. Oliveira stops on a dime. Thiago. Daniels lays it off. Now it's Manella. Back for Gagnon Laparé. Once more for Daniels. Just fizzes it across, but nobody there except for Colin Fernandez. His clearance only as far as Ward. St. Louis doing a lot of defending at the moment, protecting a 1-goal lead and protecting a massive 3 points. Good football here from Ottawa. Back out for Ward. And it was intended for Kevin Oliveira, cleared away again. It's total emergency mode for Anthony Pulis' group.
That left side looks tired. Russell Cicerone came on in the 62nd minute. He's only got 3 passes and 6 total touches on the ball after 27 minutes. And they are running on that right-hand side.
Not the best from Barnathan.
And Wokavina is asking for it as well. He's asking him to pick it up a little bit. I don't blame him. Matt Boehner in a lot of 2v1 situations, not getting a lot of help defensively from Cicerone on the left. You've now reached the point where the goal's been put in the back of the net by the other substitute, Tyler Blackwood. Now you got to track back and help out as much as possible.
Stoppage time is presented by Paycor. We will have 4 minutes of it. Need more time in your business? Contact Paycor to handle your payroll and human resources needs. Thiago trying to switch the point of attack, but he didn't even take a step to try to hit what would have been about a 45 to 50-yard pass all the way across the pitch, as Barnathan now trying to do what Thiago couldn't, just to the opposite side. Dakers keeps it in play, and the game has become mighty stretched, and Dakers wisely will just waltz it on over to the corner. Kept in. Dakers still battling. Now when St. Louis do get a lead, they are one of the best teams in the Eastern Conference of just sort of bottling it up and killing the game off. The problem is that they haven't been leading many games as of late. Obasi. Gagnon Laparé for Oliveira. Good sliding challenge from Sam Fink. And even when the ball back in, he knows how big that possession is. As it'll knock probably around 30 to 45 seconds off the clock.
The reference early on was that you would follow this guy anywhere, especially in a battle. Sam Fink, such a vocal leader by center back position moving forward, and then that physical presence that he doesn't always have to exert. With a couple minutes to go in a matchup, 1-0, why not now?
Howarth taking the inside, finding Oliveira. If anybody's going to bring them back into this game, it's got to be number 10 for Ottawa Fury. Thiago. Barnathan now chips one in. Gagnon Laparé trying to cushion it down. Clearance was almost put right into the path of Obasi. And just about a minute remaining in stoppage time. Looked like it went over the line. It did, and it'll be a throw-in for St. Louis. And that just might do it. What a gutsy performance from St. Louis Football Club. On the verge of rattling off back-to-back wins in what seems like forever for the club. To win their 3rd game in their last 17 tries. Shouts for a handball. Anthony Pulis is living in the technical area. Howarth trying to dink one in. Oliveira looking to bring it down. Still loose in the area and finally cleared away by Colin Fernandez. And there it is, St. Louis FC for the moment inside of the playoff cutoff line. They take down Ottawa Fury, earn a clean sheet to boot. Tyler Blackwood, the substitute, comes on and scores his first goal for St. Louis Football Club and gives them a much needed 3 points. What a gutty performance from Anthony Pulis' group.
So, who is your Pleats Cleaners Man of the Match tonight?
And tonight's Man of the Match is presented by Pleats Cleaners, and it is none other than Mr. Tyler Blackwood. Selected by our broadcast crew. Follow St. Louis FC on Twitter to vote on the Pleats Man of the Match fan poll. Tyler Blackwood didn't have a ton to say about this game in terms of the amount of time that he was on the field, but when he was on, certainly made the most of his time. The celebration will start here in Fenton and will last for a few hours, I would have to imagine. Back-to-back wins has never felt so good for a club that has been struggling mightily, but struggling no more as it seems. Ottawa will continue to take their talents on the road. We'll step aside the final score here at West Community. St. Louis 1, Ottawa Fury 0. We'll be back in a moment to put a bow on it.
The excitement that is sweeping the nation has arrived in St. Louis.
Hit a goal! It's Cicerone!
Fans are loving the authentic soccer experience. Tailgating, cheering, chanting, and much more. It's a party you won't want to miss.
Goal! St. Louis FC! Hit a goal!
Get your tickets at stlouisfc.com.
Full time here in Fenton, Missouri at West Community, and Tyler Blackwood is the man of the hour. Didn't even play an hour, but is able to get his first goal in his St. Louis kit, and it gives them all 3 points. The former Sacramento man doing it up big for St. Louis Football Club, and they are now inside of the playoff cutoff line. We'll take a look at how it all went down here in Fenton, and Devin Kerr, it wasn't easy by any stretch of the imagination. If it wasn't going to be Tyler Blackwood scoring, it probably was going to be Kadeem Dakers.
100%. His ability to impose his will in the offensive side of their movements going forward was quite impressive. No goals to show for it, but was constantly a thorn in the side of Ottawa Fury, trying to find a way to stretch the field of play. And I said to you right around the 60th minute mark, 55 or so, I said, look, you have to find a way to give a different look to Ottawa Fury. I like Caleb Calvert, I like Kyle Gregg. I just don't like them together because they're so similar in their form. You would get half chances from there on out. You would have to find a way to get a substitute. But more importantly, what was this going to look like when you started to make those changes? Anthony Pulis would make all 3 of his substitutions. The first one was understandable, frustrating but understandable. Lewis Hilton's going to come off. You bring in Colin Fernandez. We talked about what he could or could not be. But Tyler Blackwood gave you that look that just allows you to extend plays a bit more. Notice how he occupies Barnathan first and foremost and then just peels off, because he knows one of the best guys in all the USL Championship when it comes to one-on-one and aerial battles is going to be Kyle Gregg. He does exactly what he's supposed to, just puts it out in front of the midseason transfer who puts it in the back of the net.
And Dakota Barnathan is going to be wondering why on earth he let that bounce, and that is Cardinal sin numero uno as a defender, especially on a long ball coming from Tomas Gomez. And here's a look at the playoff picture at the moment. St. Louis FC inside of the playoff cutoff line as they were able to leapfrog the Charleston Battery, who do have a game in hand, but talk to any coach in this league, they'd rather have the points than the games in hand.
And think about St. Louis FC and who they have to now face. They're going to play Nashville this weekend on the road at Birmingham, and then Red Bull 2. Ottawa Fury, they've got a tough ask as well. They got Atlanta United 2 on the road, but then back-to-back games against Indy 11 and Tampa Bay Rowdies. It is getting really tight in that 10 spot.
Well, it was not easy by any stretch, but St. Louis FC get it done for a second match in a row, and that has not happened as of late. The force was strong with Anthony Pulis' group, but for Ottawa Fury Football Club, they'll live to fight another day. Still within the playoff cutoff line, and St. Louis FC joins them in 10th place. Ottawa is still sitting in 8th. For our entire broadcast crew and my broadcast partner, Devin Kerr, Tyler Terrence saying so long for now, and thank you for tuning in.
This copyrighted telecast of the United Soccer League Championship cannot be retransmitted, rebroadcast, or reproduced without the expressed written consent of the United Soccer League Championship.